I sit at my kitchen table, staring at the empty chair where Marcus used to read his morning paper. 3 months since the funeral, and I still set out 2 cups every morning before catching myself. The house feels hollowed out, like someone scooped out its heart and left just the shell. The morning ritual has become my anchor to sanity, even as it threatens to pull me under. I arrange the newspaper exactly as Marcus preferred it, sports section folded underneath, business section on top. The comics saved for last because he always said dessert comes after dinner. My fingers trace the familiar creases, and for a moment, I can almost hear his voice commenting on the headlines, making jokes about the politicians he never trusted. My phone buzzes against the wooden table. Claire's name on the screen makes my stomach clench. Last night's text burns in my memory. Mom, we need to talk about your living situation. Living situation. As if I'm a problem that needs solving, a puzzle piece that no longer fits in the picture she's trying to create. I pour tea into the delicate china cup Marcus brought me from London, the one with tiny roses that I've treasured for 37 years. The handle is chipped now, a small crack that appeared last month when my hands shook while washing dishes. My hands shake slightly as I lift it, and I wonder if this is what Claire means. If this tremor is evidence that I'm falling apart, becoming the burden she's clearly decided I already am. The morning light catches the silver spoons in the drawer I've left open. Marcus's mother's spoons, the ones Claire used to polish with me as a child. She'd laugh at her reflection in the curved surface, making silly faces while I told her stories about her grandmother she never met. Those Sunday afternoons seem like a lifetime ago now, when Claire still believed I was the wisest person in the world, when my opinion mattered more than my inconvenience. The phone stops buzzing, then starts again immediately. She's persistent, my daughter. Always has been. It's a trait I once admired, back when her determination was focused on school projects and career goals, not on relocating her grieving mother. Hello, sweetheart. Mom, good, you're awake. Listen, I've been thinking about what we discussed. We didn't discuss anything, Claire. You sent me a text message like I'm one of your work colleagues. The silence stretches between us, filled with all the conversations we haven't had, all the visits that never happened, all the phone calls that were about business rather than connection. I can picture her in her pristine kitchen, probably already dressed for work, checking her watch and calculating how long this conversation will take, how it fits into her schedule of solving problems and managing crises. Mom, I'm trying to help. You can't live in that big house all by yourself anymore. It's not practical. Practical. The word sits heavy in my chest like a stone. I think about Marcus reading in his chair every morning for 17 years, how he'd fold his paper just so and set it on the table when he was done. How he'd kiss my forehead and say, "Good morning, beautiful," even when I was 68 and wearing my ratty bathrobe. How he'd make me laugh by reading the most ridiculous news stories in a serious voice, turning the morning paper into our private comedy show. Your father lived in this house for 42 years. I've lived here for 37. But it's not practical. That's not what I meant, and you know it. I walk to the kitchen drawer, running my fingers over the silver spoons. Each one tells a story: Christmas dinners where Claire would insist on using the good silver, holiday gatherings where Marcus would tease her about her fancy manners, the quiet Sunday mornings when he'd make pancakes and I'd set out the good silver just because ordinary days deserved to feel special too. Do you remember polishing these with me when you were little? You used to make faces at yourself in the curved part. Mom, please don't change the subject. This is important. Important. Everything is important to Claire now: her career, her schedule, her need to check elderly mother off her list of responsibilities. But the spoons aren't important. The chair isn't important. The memories soaked into every floorboard of this house, the way the afternoon light hits the kitchen window just right, the garden Marcus planted because he knew I loved roses, none of it is important. I'm not changing the subject. These spoons are important. This house is important. The chair your father sat in every morning is important. Mom. Her voice shifts, becomes softer, the tone she uses when she thinks I'm being unreasonable. I know this is hard. But you're 73. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if I live? The words come out sharper than I intended, cutting through her litany of fears like a blade. What if I keep making my tea in the cup your father brought me? What if I keep reading at this table where we shared breakfast every morning for decades? What if I keep tending the garden he planted, keep sleeping in the bed where we loved each other, keep existing in the life we built together? You're being dramatic. The accusation hits me like a physical blow. I set the spoon down too hard, and it clatters against the others. Dramatic. Because grief is dramatic. Because loving someone for 42 years and not wanting to abandon everything you built together is dramatic. Because refusing to be warehoused for convenience is dramatic. Your mother is being dramatic because she doesn't want to abandon everything she's built with the man she loved. I didn't say abandon. I said, we need to look at options. There are lovely places, Mom. Places with people your age, activities, medical care right there if you need it. People my age. As if being 73 means I only want to talk to other 73-year-olds about medication and grandchildren. As if I've outgrown the need for the life I chose, the home I built, the love I shared. As if my entire identity should now revolve around my age rather than my choices, my history, my heart. You mean a nursing home, Claire? Just say it. They're not called that anymore. They're senior living communities. Independent living. You'd have your own apartment, but I wouldn't have my husband's chair. Or his mother's spoons. Or the garden he planted. Or the bedroom where my throat closes up. Where we made love. Where we whispered about our dreams. Where he held me during the chemo. Where I held him when the cancer came for him instead. Where I still sleep on my side of the bed, where I still sometimes reach for him in the middle of the night, where his cologne still clings to his pillow. Mom, please. I'm trying to do what's best for you. Best for me, or best for you? The question hangs in the air like smoke. I can hear her breathing, can almost feel her discomfort through the phone. This is the question she's been avoiding, the one that cuts to the heart of everything. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know how busy you are, sweetheart. I know you have your career, your husband, your own life. And I know having to worry about your old mother in her impractical house is inconvenient. That's not fair. But it is fair, isn't it? When's the last time she visited? When's the last time she called just to talk, not to solve a problem or check an item off her list? When's the last time she asked about my day, my feelings, my dreams that don't involve dying quietly in some facility? When's the last time you visited, Claire? Before the funeral? I was here for Christmas. That was 8 months ago. The silence stretches again. I can picture her face, the way her jaw tightens when she knows she's been caught. The way she'll rationalize it, find reasons why it's not her fault, why circumstances prevented her from being the daughter she claims to be. I've been worried. I've been worried this whole time, but Dad was there, and I thought, you thought he'd take care of me forever. And now that he's gone, I'm your responsibility. Your burden. You're not a burden. But her voice wavers, and we both hear it. We both know the truth that lives in that hesitation. I look at Marcus's chair again, at the morning paper I still buy every day even though no one reads it. The roses on my teacup blur through my tears, but I won't let her hear me cry. Not now. Not when she's already decided I'm too fragile to manage my own life. Your father would have fought for this house. He would have told you that home isn't just a place to store an old woman until she dies. Mom, please don't. He would have reminded you that some things matter more than practicality. That some things are worth keeping, even when they're old and inconvenient. Even when they require love instead of management. I hang up before she can respond, and the kitchen falls silent again. Just me, the empty chair, and the weight of everything I'm about to lose. But in that silence, I hear something else, Marcus's voice, as clear as if he were sitting beside me. Don't let them put you somewhere just because it's easier for them, beautiful. You're worth more than their convenience. For the first time in months, I smile. The fight is just beginning. When I turn back, Claire is crying. Real tears, not the careful emotional manipulation I've seen before. David has his arm around her, but his eyes are on me, and I can see the calculation there. The weighing of options. The planning of next steps. We'll see, he says quietly, and in those 2 words, I hear my future being decided. I hear the conversations they'll have in the car, the phone calls they'll make, the strategies they'll develop. They're not giving up. They're regrouping, but for the first time in months, I'm not afraid. I'm angry. And anger, I'm beginning to realize, is much more useful than grief. The doorbell rings at exactly 10 o'clock. I should have known Claire would be punctual. She's always been punctual when delivering bad news. Through the peephole, I see her standing next to David, both wearing expressions so serious they might as well be holding a court summons. They're dressed like they're attending a business meeting, which, I suppose, they are. The business of my life. I take a deep breath and open the door, steeling myself for what I know is coming. Their faces are carefully composed, practicing the compassionate but firm expressions they've probably rehearsed in the car. Hi, Mom. Hello, sweetheart. David. I step aside to let them in, noting how they exchange a glance. A quick, meaningful look that tells me everything I need to know about why they're here. This isn't a social visit. This is an intervention. Carefully planned and executed. How are you feeling? David asks, his voice carefully gentle, like he's speaking to a child or an invalid. I'm fine. I lead them to the living room, where the morning light streams through the windows Marcus always said were too big. Would you like some tea? I just put the kettle on. The offer is automatic, bred into me by decades of hostessing, but I watch their faces as I make it. They're both too tense for tea, too focused on their mission to accept normal hospitality. No, thanks. Claire sits on the edge of the couch, her purse clutched in her lap like armor. Mom, we need to talk. There it is. The same tone she used when she told me she was moving across the country for David's job promotion 5 years ago. The tone that says the decision has already been made, and this conversation is just a formality. The tone that says she's about to break my heart for what she considers my own good. That I settle into Marcus's chair, my chair now, I suppose, and wait. Let them make their case. Let them reveal themselves for who they really are. David and I have been talking, Claire begins, and my stomach drops. We're worried about you. Worried. Not concerned, not caring, worried. The kind of worry that requires action, that demands solutions, that justifies taking control of someone else's life. I've seen this kind of worry before, in the families of Marcus's patients who wanted to make medical decisions for their loved ones, who confused fear with love. Worried about what? David leans forward, his hands clasped between his knees. Claire told me about some things that have been happening. Small things, but what things? I keep my voice steady, even though my heart is racing. I can sense the trap being constructed around me, word by word, concern by concern. Claire's jaw tightens. Mom, you left the stove on twice last week. Mrs. Patterson from next door had to come over because she could smell gas. The stove. 2 times out of how many meals? 2 times out of 73 years of cooking, and suddenly I'm incompetent. I want to remind her of the time she left her curling iron on and nearly burned down her dorm room, but I hold my tongue. This isn't about fairness or perspective. This is about building a case. I was distracted. I was thinking about your father. And last Wednesday, you called me asking what day it was. You seemed genuinely confused. Last Wednesday. The day Marcus and I were supposed to visit Dr. Morrison for his 6-month checkup. The appointment I'd marked on the calendar in red ink, the one I'd been dreading for weeks before remembering he wouldn't be keeping it. The day I woke up and for a moment, forgot he was gone. I was having a difficult day. Mom, these aren't just difficult days. These are episodes. Claire's voice is getting stronger, more confident. She's building her case, brick by brick, incident by incident. What if something serious happens? What if you fall and there's no one there to help you? Episodes. As if grief is a medical condition that can be diagnosed and treated and filed away in some assisted living facility. As if the normal process of mourning someone you loved for 42 years is a symptom of mental decline rather than a testament to how deeply you loved. I haven't fallen. But you could, David says, and I hear the calculation in his voice. At your age, a fall could mean broken bones, months of recovery. At my age. I repeat his words slowly, tasting the condescension. You mean at 73? The same age your mother was when she ran that marathon in Chicago. David's face flushes. That's different. How? Because she wasn't living alone. She had support. Support. Another word that sounds helpful but feels like a cage. Support that requires giving up everything that makes life worth living. Support that means surrendering control of your own existence to people who measure love in terms of convenience. I have support. I have neighbors. I have friends. When's the last time you saw them? Claire asks, and I hear the gotcha in her voice. When's the last time you left this house for something other than groceries? The question hits me like a slap. When was the last time? Before the funeral, maybe. Before Marcus got sick. Before I became the kind of person who talks to empty chairs and makes tea for ghosts. Before I realized that everywhere I went, he wasn't there. I'm grieving, Claire. I'm not dying. But you're not living either. Her voice cracks, and for a moment, I see the little girl who used to climb into my lap when thunderstorms scared her. You're just existing. Waiting. Waiting for what? For him to come back. For things to go back to the way they were. But they can't, Mom. They can't. The words hang in the air like a death sentence. I know she's right, have known it for months, but hearing it spoken aloud feels like being hit by a truck. Yes, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the pain to stop, for the world to make sense again, for my heart to remember how to beat without breaking. So, what do you suggest? That I just forget 42 years of marriage? That I pack up my memories and move to some? I struggle for the words. Some warehouse for old people? It's not a warehouse. David pulls out his phone, scrolling through what looks like a prepared presentation. We've been looking at places. Really nice places. There's one called Sunset Gardens that has beautiful facilities, activities, medical care right on site. Gardens, I say flatly. Yes, they have lovely gardens. You always loved gardening. I loved gardening with Marcus. I loved planting tomatoes. while he complained about the rabbits. I loved watching him read his paper on the porch while I weeded the flower beds. They don't understand. They think love is transferable, that I can just redirect my affection toward new gardens, new activities, new people. They don't understand that the love I had with Marcus was specific, irreplaceable, woven into the very fabric of this house and this life. You could still garden, Claire says desperately. You could make new friends. I could what? Start over at 73? Pretend the last 42 years never happened? No one's asking you to pretend anything, David says. We're just asking you to be practical. There's that word again. Practical. The enemy of everything I've ever loved. The excuse for abandoning everything that makes life worth living. Your father was practical, I tell them. He had life insurance, a will, a plan for everything. But you know what he told me 3 days before he died? He said, Eleanor, don't let them put you somewhere just because it's easier for them. Claire's face goes pale. He said that? He said that. He also said, home isn't just a place to keep your things. It's where your heart lives. I can see her processing this, trying to reconcile the father she remembers with the man who saw through her plans. Marcus always was perceptive about people, able to see motivations that others missed. Mom, Claire's voice is barely a whisper. He knew you'd want to move me somewhere convenient. Somewhere you could check on me without disrupting your life too much. That's not fair. Isn't it? I stand up, my legs suddenly feeling stronger than they have in months. When's the last time you visited before today? When's the last time you called just to talk, not to solve a problem? The silence stretches between us like a chasm. David studies his hands. Claire stares at the floor. Their discomfort is palpable, but I feel no satisfaction in it. Only sadness for the relationship we've lost, for the daughter who sees me as a problem to be solved rather than a person to be loved. I thought so, I say quietly. This isn't about my safety. It's about your guilt. Mom, please, it's about the fact that you moved across the country and left your father to take care of me. And now that he's gone, you're stuck with the inconvenience of having an aging mother. You're not an inconvenience. Claire's voice breaks. You're my mother, and I love you, and I'm terrified that something's going to happen to you. For the first time since they arrived, I see real emotion in her eyes. Not duty, not guilt, fear. Pure, honest fear. The kind of fear that comes from love, even if it's love that's been twisted by distance and time and the pressures of a life lived too far away. Something is going to happen to me, I say gently. I'm going to die. Just like your father did. Just like everyone does. But I'm not going to spend whatever time I have left sitting in some facility, waiting for death and pretending it's living. I walk to the window, looking out at the garden Marcus planted, at the tomato plants that are already starting to sprout despite no one tending them. The roses are blooming again, just like they did every spring for the past 20 years. Life continues, even in grief. I'm going to stay here. In the house where I loved your father. Where I raised you. Where I belong. After they leave, I sit in Marcus's study, surrounded by the smell of his old leather books and the faint scent of his cologne that still clings to his reading chair. The room feels like a sanctuary, filled with 40 years of his careful organization and quiet contemplation. His desk is exactly as he left it, fountain pen in its holder, reading glasses folded on top of his journal, the small silver letter opener his grandfather gave him positioned just so. My hands shake as I search through his desk drawers, looking for our copy of the will. I've avoided this room since the funeral, too overwhelmed by his presence to face the practical matters of death. But Claire and David's visit has lit a fire under me, a desperate need to understand exactly where I stand. That's when I find it, a folder marked Mom's Care in Claire's handwriting. My blood runs cold as I open it. The handwriting is neat, organized, clinical. Inside are printed emails between Claire and David, discussing my declining mental state and the financial burden of maintaining this house. The words swim before my eyes, increasing confusion. Safety concerns, practical considerations. But it's the highlighted section about Marcus's life insurance policy that stops my breath entirely. $800,000. $800,000 that I apparently knew nothing about. I sink into Marcus's chair, the leather creaking under my weight, and read the emails more carefully. They're dated months ago, some even from before Marcus died. While I was holding his hand in the hospital, while I was planning his funeral, while I was drowning in grief, Claire was orchestrating this conversation with her husband. Financial burden of maintaining the house could be eliminated if Mom moves to assisted living, David wrote. The life insurance payout would more than cover the costs, and the house sale would provide additional security. Mom's been having more episodes, Claire responded. Yesterday she called me asking what day it was. I think we need to start documenting these incidents. Episodes. Incidents. Documentation. The language of a legal case being built, brick by brick, while I thought they were just concerned about my well-being. "Oh, Marcus," I whisper to the empty room. "She's been planning this all along." I touch the silver letter opener on his desk, the one that belonged to his grandfather, the one he used to open every important document that crossed his desk. My fingers trace the engraved initials, and something inside me hardens. This isn't about my safety. This isn't about love. This is about money, and I've been too blind with grief to see it. The folder contains more than just emails. There are printouts of real estate websites showing the value of houses in our neighborhood. There are brochures for assisted living facilities, with cost comparisons and wait list information. There's even a business card for an elder law attorney, not for my protection, but for theirs. I think about all the times Claire has complained about money over the years. The expensive car repairs, the property taxes on their house, the cost of their daughter's college education. I think about the way David's eyes always seemed to calculate the value of our antiques, the way he'd comment on the waste of heating such a large house, but most of all, I think about Marcus, lying in his hospital bed, squeezing my hand and telling me, "Don't let them put you somewhere just because it's easier for them." He knew. Somehow, he knew what they were planning. I set the folder aside and continue searching through his desk. In the bottom drawer, hidden beneath old tax returns and medical records, I find another folder. This one is marked, "For Eleanor," in Marcus's careful handwriting. Inside, there's a letter dated just 2 weeks before his death, along with a key I don't recognize. "My dearest Eleanor," the letter begins, and my heart breaks all over again at the sight of his familiar handwriting. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I suspect Claire is pressuring you about the house." My hands tremble as I read on. Marcus had been watching, listening, preparing for this moment. He'd noticed Claire's phone calls about my condition, David's questions about our finances, their careful documentation of my moments of confusion. "I've been setting aside money for years," he wrote, knowing that they were struggling financially, but also sensing that they saw us as their retirement plan. "Last month, I overheard a phone conversation between Claire and David about waiting for the inheritance. It broke my heart, but it also opened my eyes." The letter goes on to explain that he'd made arrangements, created protections I never knew existed. The key, he explained, was to a safety deposit box at the bank downtown. Inside, I would find everything I needed to make my own choices about my future. "Trust Ruth," he wrote. "She's been looking out for you longer than you know." Ruth. My neighbor. My friend, the one person who's checked on me every day since the funeral without expecting anything in return. The one person who's never mentioned my living situation or suggested I'd be better off somewhere else. For the first time since Marcus died, I know exactly what I need to do. I fold the letter carefully and put it in my pocket, then call Ruth. She answers on the second ring, as if she's been waiting for my call. "Eleanor? What's wrong? Can you come over? I need help." "I'll be right there." As I wait for her, I sit in Marcus's chair and feel something I haven't felt in months: hope. Not the desperate hope that he might somehow come back, but practical hope. The kind that comes with solutions, with allies, with the knowledge that even in death, the man I loved is still protecting me. Ruth arrives within 20 minutes, her face flushed from hurrying, her eyes bright with concern. She's still wearing her gardening gloves, and there's dirt on her knees from working in her flower beds. She looks exactly like what she is, a woman who's lived fully, who's weathered storms, who's learned to recognize trouble when it comes knocking. "Eleanor? What's wrong?" I lead her to the kitchen, where I make tea with shaking hands. The china cups feel fragile today, like everything in my life, but I need the ritual of normalcy, the comfort of routine. Ruth sits at my kitchen table, watching me cry into my tea, and I'm grateful for her presence, for the way she doesn't rush to fill the silence with platitudes or solutions. "Tell me what happened," she says gently. I show her the documents, watching her face change from concern to something harder, more protective. Her jaw tightens as she reads Claire's emails, and I can see the anger building in her eyes. But it's not the explosive anger of youth, it's the controlled fury of a woman who's lived long enough to recognize injustice and betrayal. "Eleanor," she says, using my full name the way she only does when she's serious, "this isn't about your memory. This is about money." The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I already knew it. Hearing it spoken aloud makes it real, makes it undeniable. My daughter, the little girl I raised, the woman I'm proud of, sees me as a financial opportunity rather than a person worthy of love and respect. Ruth gets up and makes me another cup of tea, this time using the everyday mugs. It's a small gesture, but it speaks to her practicality, her understanding that some conversations require comfort more than ceremony. "My daughter tried the same thing 2 years ago," she says, settling back into her chair. "Wanted to move me into a retirement community so she could sell my house and pay off her credit cards. I look up at her, surprised. Ruth has never mentioned this before. She's always seemed so confident, so in control of her life and her relationships. The difference is, she continues, meeting my eyes, I had already talked to a lawyer. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a business card, James Morrison, elder law attorney. The edges are worn, like she's carried it for a long time, like it's been a talisman of protection. Ruth, I say quietly, how long have you known this might happen? She sits back down, her hands wrapped around her mug. I've been watching David. Calculate the value of your house every time he visits. I've seen Claire taking pictures of your antiques when she thought no one was looking. I've noticed the way they talk about you when they think you can't hear them. My heart sinks. Why didn't you tell me? Because you needed to see it for yourself. And because I hoped I was wrong. Ruth reaches across the table and takes my hand. Her skin is warm, weathered by years of gardening and living, but her grip is strong, steady. Eleanor, you're not the first woman to face this. Adult children who see their parents as obstacles to their financial security, who convince themselves that control is the same as care. I think about the folder in Claire's handwriting, the careful documentation of my episodes, the calculated progression from concern to action. How do I fight this? You start by understanding your rights. You start by getting help from people who know how to protect you. She taps the business card. James Morrison specializes in elder law. He's helped dozens of women like us. Women like us. The phrase resonates in ways I hadn't expected. I'm not alone in this. There are others who've faced the same betrayal, the same manipulation disguised as love. Ruth, I say, you've been more than just my neighbor all these years, haven't you? She smiles, and for the first time today, it reaches her eyes. I've been your friend. And friends protect each other. I look at the business card, feeling something I haven't felt in months, not just hope, but power. The power that comes from knowledge, from allies, from understanding that I don't have to face this alone. There's something else, I say, pulling out Marcus's letter. Marcus left me something. A key to a safety deposit box. Ruth reads the letter, her eyebrows rising as she takes in the implications. Your husband was a smart man. He was a good man, I correct her. There's a difference. Yes, she says, folding the letter carefully. There is. And good men don't leave their wives defenseless. We sit in comfortable silence for a moment, two women who've lived long enough to understand that love sometimes requires fighting, that protection sometimes requires preparation. What do you think I should do? I ask. Ruth stands up, suddenly energized. I think we should call James Morrison. And I think we should visit that safety deposit box. And I think we should find out exactly what kind of protections your husband put in place. For the first time since Marcus died, I feel like I'm not drowning. I feel like I have a life preserver, thrown to me by the man who loved me and the friend who's chosen to stand by me. Ruth, I say, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. You just need to let me help you fight. And for the first time in months, I believe that fighting might actually be possible. After Claire and David leave, I sit in Marcus's study, surrounded by the smell of his old leather books and the faint scent of his cologne that still clings to his reading chair. The room feels like a sanctuary, filled with 40 years of his careful organization and quiet contemplation. His desk is exactly as he left it, fountain pen in its holder, reading glasses folded on top of his journal, the small silver letter opener his grandfather gave him positioned just so. My hands shake as I search through his desk drawers, looking for our copy of the will. I've avoided this room since the funeral, too overwhelmed by his presence to face the practical matters of death. But Claire and David's visit has lit a fire under me, a desperate need to understand exactly where I stand. That's when I find it, a folder marked Mom's Care in Claire's handwriting. My blood runs cold as I open it. The handwriting is neat, organized, clinical. Inside are printed emails between Claire and David, discussing my declining mental state and the financial burden of maintaining this house. The words swim before my eyes, increasing confusion. Safety concerns, practical considerations. But it's the highlighted section about Marcus's life insurance policy that stops my breath entirely. $800,000. $800,000 that I apparently knew nothing about. I sink into Marcus's chair, the leather creaking under my weight, and read the emails more carefully. They're dated months ago, some even from before Marcus died. While I was holding his hand in the hospital, while I was planning his funeral, while I was drowning in grief, Claire was orchestrating this conversation with her husband. Financial burden of maintaining the house could be eliminated if Mom moves to assisted living, David wrote. The life insurance payout would more than cover the costs, and the house sale would provide additional security. Mom's been having more episodes, Claire responded. Yesterday she called me asking what day it was. I think we need to start documenting these incidents. Episodes. Incidents. Documentation. The language of a legal case being built, brick by brick, while I thought they were just concerned about my well-being. "Oh, Marcus," I whisper to the empty room. "She's been planning this all along." I touch the silver letter opener on his desk, the one that belonged to his grandfather, the one he used to open every important document that crossed his desk. My fingers trace the engraved initials, and something inside me hardens. This isn't about my safety. This isn't about love. This is about money, and I've been too blind with grief to see it. The folder contains more than just emails. There are printouts of real estate websites showing the value of houses in our neighborhood. There are brochures for assisted living facilities, with cost comparisons and wait list information. There's even a business card for an elder law attorney, not for my protection, but for theirs. I think about all the times Claire has complained about money over the years. The expensive car repairs, the property taxes on their house, the cost of their daughter's college education. I think about the way David's eyes always seemed to calculate the value of our antiques, the way he'd comment on the waste of heating such a large house, but most of all, I think about Marcus, lying in his hospital bed, squeezing my hand and telling me, "Don't let them put you somewhere just because it's easier for them." He knew. Somehow, he knew what they were planning. I set the folder aside and continue searching through his desk. In the bottom drawer, hidden beneath old tax returns and medical records, I find another folder. This one is marked, "For Eleanor," in Marcus's careful handwriting. Inside, there's a letter dated just 2 weeks before his death, along with a key I don't recognize. "My dearest Eleanor," the letter begins, and my heart breaks all over again at the sight of his familiar handwriting. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I suspect Claire is pressuring you about the house." My hands tremble as I read on. Marcus had been watching, listening, preparing for this moment. He'd noticed Claire's phone calls about my condition, David's questions about our finances, their careful documentation of my moments of confusion. "I've been setting aside money for years," he wrote, knowing that they were struggling financially, but also sensing that they saw us as their retirement plan. "Last month, I overheard a phone conversation between Claire and David about waiting for the inheritance. It broke my heart, but it also opened my eyes." The letter goes on to explain that he'd made arrangements, created protections I never knew existed. The key, he explained, was to a safety deposit box at the bank downtown. Inside, I would find everything I needed to make my own choices about my future. "Trust Ruth," he wrote. "She's been looking out for you longer than you know." Ruth. My neighbor. My friend, the one person who's checked on me every day since the funeral without expecting anything in return. The one person who's never mentioned my living situation or suggested I'd be better off somewhere else. For the first time since Marcus died, I know exactly what I need to do. I fold the letter carefully and put it in my pocket, then call Ruth. She answers on the second ring, as if she's been waiting for my call. "Eleanor? What's wrong? Can you come over? I need help." "I'll be right there." As I wait for her, I sit in Marcus's chair and feel something I haven't felt in months: hope. Not the desperate hope that he might somehow come back, but practical hope. The kind that comes with solutions, with allies, with the knowledge that even in death, the man I loved is still protecting me. Ruth drives me to the bank the next morning, and I'm grateful for her steady presence as we sit in the sterile room with the metal box between us. The bank employee has left us alone, and the silence feels heavy with possibilities. My hands shake. As I insert the key Marcus left me, unsure of what I'll find but knowing it will change everything. Inside the box, I find documents that reshape my understanding of my entire marriage. There are stocks, bonds, and investment papers showing that Marcus had been quietly building wealth for decades. Bank statements revealing regular deposits I never knew about, royalties from a patent he filed 20 years ago that's apparently still paying out substantial amounts, but it's the sealed envelope marked, "For Eleanor's peace of mind," that undoes me completely. Inside are photographs, pictures of Claire and David's house, their new cars, their vacation photos from Europe last summer. All time-stamped from the past 2 years, along with receipts and financial records showing they've been far from the struggling couple they've portrayed themselves to be. "Oh, Eleanor," Ruth whispers, looking at the photos over my shoulder. "Your husband was thorough. Marcus had hired a private investigator. Not out of malice, but out of love for me. Out of a need to know the truth about the people who would be responsible for my care after he was gone." The investigator's report is detailed, methodical, devastating in its clarity. Claire and David bought a new BMW last year. They took 3 expensive vacations. David got a promotion that increased his salary by 40%. Meanwhile, they've been telling me about their financial struggles, their need to cut back, their worry about college costs for their daughter. There's also a second key in the box, and when I ask the bank employee about it, she leads us to another, larger safety deposit box. This one is in my name alone, set up by Marcus just months before his death. Inside, I discover that Marcus left me far more than comfortable, he left me powerful. The contents represent decades of careful planning, strategic investments, and a love so deep it anticipated betrayal and prepared for it. There are enough assets here to live independently for the rest of my life, to hire help if I need it, to make my own choices about my future. Your husband was a smart man, Ruth says quietly, her voice thick with emotion. He was a good man, I correct her, touching the photographs of Claire's deceptions. There's a difference. The investigator's report includes transcripts of phone conversations between Claire and David, recorded with their permission during a consultation about estate planning. The conversations are clinical, calculating, focused entirely on the financial benefits of moving me into care. If we can document Mom's declining mental state, Claire's voice says from the transcript, we can make a case for guardianship. The house alone is worth $800,000, and with Dad's life insurance, I stop reading. I can't bear to see my daughter's betrayal laid out in black and white, can't stand to read how she's turned my grief into evidence of incompetence, my love for Marcus into proof of mental decline. What are you going to do? Ruth asks, carefully organizing the documents back into their folders. I look at the photographs one more time, Claire and David smiling on a beach in Italy, the same week I was alone in this house, learning to sleep without Marcus beside me. I'm going to learn how to protect myself, just like Marcus protected me. The bank employee returns with additional paperwork, documents that Marcus had prepared but never told me about. A healthcare directive that specifically prohibits Claire from making medical decisions for me. A power of attorney that names James Morrison, an elder law attorney, as my advocate if I become unable to make my own decisions. Mrs. Patterson, the bank employee says gently, your husband also left instructions for us to contact Mr. Morrison if you ever came to access these boxes. He wanted to make sure you had legal support. I nod, overwhelmed by the depth of Marcus's foresight. Even in his final weeks, when the cancer was stealing his strength, he was thinking of me. Planning for me. Fighting for me. I'd like to call Mr. Morrison now, I tell Ruth. I think it's time I understood exactly what protections my husband put in place. As we leave the bank, I feel different. Not just because of the money or the documents, but because I understand now that I'm not alone in this fight. Marcus is still with me, still protecting me, still loving me enough to see what I couldn't see myself. The weight of betrayal sits heavy in my chest, but alongside it is something else, determination. Claire wanted to use my grief against me. Wanted to turn my love for Marcus into evidence of my incompetence. But she didn't count on Marcus's love for me being stronger than her need for control. Ruth, I say as we drive home, I need to ask you something. How long have you known about Claire's plans? She's quiet for a moment, her hands steady on the steering wheel. I've been watching David calculate the value of your house every time he visits. I've seen Claire taking pictures of your antiques when she thought no one was looking. I've noticed the way they talk about you when they think you can't hear them. Why didn't you tell me? Because you needed to see it for yourself. And because I hoped I was wrong. I understand now why Marcus told me to trust Ruth. She's been protecting me all along, watching over me, waiting for me to be ready to fight back. What happens now? I ask. Now we call James Morrison. Now we make sure Claire understands that loving someone doesn't give you the right to control them. Now we teach your daughter the difference between care and possession. For the first time in months, I feel ready for whatever comes next. James Morrison's office is warm and comfortable, filled with the kind of furniture that suggests both success and accessibility. He's younger than I expected, perhaps in his early 50s, but his eyes are kind and sharp simultaneously. When Ruth and I arrive, he greets us with the sort of genuine warmth that tells me Marcus chose well. Mrs. Patterson, he says, shaking my hand firmly. I'm so sorry for your loss. Marcus spoke of you often during our meetings. He met with you? I ask, surprised by how much I still don't know about my husband's final preparations. Several times. Actually. He was very thorough about ensuring your protection. James gestures to chairs arranged around a small conference table. Please, sit. We have a lot to discuss. I spread Marcus's documents across the mahogany surface, watching James's expression as he reviews everything. His face remains professionally neutral, but I catch the slight tightening around his eyes when he reads Claire's emails, the way his jaw sets when he sees the evidence of their financial deceptions. Mrs. Patterson, he says finally, your husband was a very thorough man. And he was deeply concerned about your daughter's intentions. He was worried about me, I say simply, though the words feel inadequate to describe the depth of Marcus's love and foresight. James nods, pulling out a thick file from his desk. He consulted with me 6 months before his death. We set up protections you never knew existed, safeguards designed to ensure that no one could manipulate you into giving up your independence. He explains that the house is in an irrevocable trust that Claire cannot touch, cannot force me to sell, cannot use as leverage against me. The life insurance policy has specific conditions about my care that must be met before any funds can be accessed. Most importantly, there's a clause that if anyone tries to have me declared incompetent without proper medical evidence, evidence that meets very specific standards, they forfeit any claim to the estate. Marcus was very specific about this. James continues, opening the file to show me documents in my husband's handwriting. He wanted to ensure that grief couldn't be used as evidence of mental decline, that normal mourning couldn't be twisted into proof of incompetence. I think about Claire's careful documentation of my episodes, her strategic building of a case for my mental decline. Marcus had anticipated this, had seen through her concern to the calculation beneath. He also established what we call a protection fund, James explains, showing me additional documents. Money set aside specifically to ensure you have the resources to fight any legal challenges to your independence. You're not just protected, you're empowered. The room feels smaller suddenly, filled with the weight of Marcus's foresight and love. He knew. Somehow, he knew what Claire would try to do, and he made sure I would have weapons to fight back. There's more, James says gently. Marcus recorded a video message for you. He wanted you to see it only if someone tried to challenge your competence or force you into care. He dims the lights and turns on a laptop, and suddenly Marcus is there, sitting in this very office, looking directly at me with the love and determination I remember so well. My dearest Eleanor, his recorded voice says, and I have to grip the arms of my chair to keep from crying. If you're watching this, then someone is trying to take away your choices. I want you to know that I see you, not as a problem to be solved, but as the strong, intelligent woman I've loved for over 40 years. He goes on to explain his protections, his love, his absolute confidence in my ability to make my own decisions about my life. Don't let them tell you that grief is the same as incompetence. Don't let them use your love for me as evidence that you can't love yourself. When the video ends, I'm crying openly, but they're not tears of sadness. They're tears of gratitude, of love, of the overwhelming knowledge that I am not alone in this fight. Mrs. Patterson, James says gently, what do you want to do about Claire's intervention? I surprise myself with how steady my voice sounds when I answer. I want to teach my daughter that love cannot be manipulated, that care cannot be manufactured, and that some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt with money or guilt. James makes notes on his legal pad. I can help you with that. We have several options, ranging from a simple cease and desist letter to more comprehensive measures. What would Marcus want me to do? He wanted you to choose. He wanted you to have options, to be empowered to make your own decisions. James leans forward. What do you want, Eleanor? I think about the little girl who used to help me polish silver spoons, who would laugh at her reflection in the curved surface. I think about the woman who's been building a case for my incompetence while I grieved the loss of my husband. I think about the choice between enabling her betrayal and protecting myself. I want to protect myself, I say firmly. I want to show her that I'm not the helpless old woman she thinks I am. I want her to understand that love isn't about control. James nods approvingly. Then we'll start with a demonstration of your competence. We'll show her exactly what protections your husband put in place, and we'll make it clear that any attempt to manipulate or control you will have serious consequences. As we plan our strategy, I feel something I haven't felt in months, not just hope, but power. The power that comes from knowledge, from allies, from understanding that I don't have to be anyone's victim. Marcus may be gone, but his love for me lives on in every protection he put in place, every safeguard he established, every choice he made sure I could make for myself. Thank you, I tell James as we prepare to leave. For helping Marcus protect me. Thank you for letting me help you fight back, he replies. It's what he would have wanted. I spend the next week preparing for what I know will be the most difficult conversation of my life. Not because I'm afraid of Claire's reaction, but because I'm mourning the relationship we used to have, the daughter I thought I knew, the love I believed was genuine. Ruth helps me organize the documents, and together we create a timeline of Claire's deception. The emails, the phone calls, the careful manipulation disguised as concern. We arrange everything chronologically, showing how her campaign began even before Marcus died, how she used my grief as evidence of mental decline. She's been building this case for months, Ruth observes, reviewing the evidence. Every phone call, every visit, every expression of concern, it was all calculated. I think about the morning phone calls where Claire would ask how I was feeling, how I was sleeping, whether I was eating properly. I'd thought she was being caring. Now I understand she was gathering evidence, documenting my responses, building a file that would support her claims about my deteriorating mental state. The Hardest part is going through the family photos, the memories of happier times. Claire is a baby, learning to walk in this very living room. Claire is a child, helping me cook dinner while Marcus worked late. Claire is a teenager, confiding in me about her dreams and fears. Claire is a young woman, calling me from college to ask for advice about everything from boys to career choices. Where did that girl go? When did she become someone who could look at her grieving mother and see a financial opportunity? I polished the silver spoons that belonged to Marcus's mother. The ones Claire used to admire when she was little. I set them carefully in a box, along with the other family heirlooms she's always assumed would be hers someday. The china tea set, the antique jewelry, the oil painting that hung in our bedroom, all the things she's mentioned over the years. All the pieces of our family history she's counted on inheriting, but inheritance isn't just about objects. It's about trust, about respect, about love freely given and received. And Claire has broken that trust, violated that respect, manipulated that love. I write letters, one to Claire, one to David, and one to be opened only if they contest what I'm about to do. Each word is carefully chosen, each sentence crafted with the precision Marcus would have admired. I'm not angry in these letters, just clear. Clear about what I know, clear about what I won't tolerate, clear about the consequences of their actions. James Morrison calls to check on me, and I'm grateful for his professional concern. Are you ready for this, Eleanor? Once we show them what protections Marcus put in place, there's no going back. Your relationship with Claire will change permanently. It's already changed, I tell him. She changed it when she decided to manipulate me instead of love me. I'm just refusing to pretend otherwise. The night before our meeting, I sit in Marcus's chair, holding his reading glasses, and I feel his presence with me. Not as a ghost or a memory, but as a living part of my strength, my determination, my refusal to be anyone's victim. I hope I'm doing the right thing, I whisper to the empty room, but I know I am. This isn't about revenge, it's about boundaries. It's about teaching my daughter that love cannot be manipulated, that care cannot be manufactured, and that some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt with money or guilt. I think about the little girl who used to help me polish these spoons, who would laugh at her reflection in the curved surface. That little girl is gone, replaced by a woman who sees me as an obstacle to her financial security rather than a person worthy of love and respect. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I whisper to the empty room. But I won't be anyone's victim. Not even yours. The next morning, I wake up feeling different. Not just sad or angry, but resolved. Ready to fight for my independence, my dignity, my right to choose my own life. Ready to show Claire that her mother is not the helpless old woman she thinks she is. I make my tea in the china cup with the tiny roses, and for the first time in months, my hands don't shake. I'm ready. Claire arrives at exactly 2 o'clock, armed with brochures and a concerned smile. She's brought David for moral support, though I suspect he's really here to help her maintain control of the conversation. They both look nervous, uncertain, as if they sense something has changed but can't quite identify what. Hi, Mom, Claire says, kissing my cheek with the kind of perfunctory affection that's become our normal greeting. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling? The question she's been asking for months, not out of genuine concern but to gauge my mental state, to document my responses, to build her case for my incompetence. I'm feeling quite clear, actually, I reply, gesturing for them to sit. Would you like some tea? I made it in the good china. I serve the tea using the silver spoons, watching Claire's face as she recognizes the ritual. These are the moments she's been counting on, the inheritance she's assumed would be hers, the family treasures she's already mentally catalogued and valued. Claire, I say, settling into my chair with my own cup, I need to tell you about your father's safety deposit box. The color drains from her face so quickly I almost feel sorry for her. Her hand freezes halfway to her teacup, and David shifts uncomfortably in his chair. What safety deposit box? She asks, her voice carefully controlled. I show her the photographs first, the evidence of her lies about their financial situation. The pictures of their European vacation, their new car, their expensive purchases. I watch her face go through a series of emotions, shock, anger, fear, and finally, a kind of desperate calculation. Mom, I can explain, can you? I interrupt gently. Can you explain why you've been lying to me about your financial situation? Can you explain why you've been building a case for my incompetence based on 2 forgotten stove burners and 1 confused day? She tries to defend herself, talking about genuine concern and what's best for me, but I stop her with a gesture. Marcus used to make, one finger raised, gentle but firm. I found your folder, Claire. The one marked Mom's care in your handwriting. I read your emails to David about my declining mental state and the financial burden of this house. David's face flushes red. Mrs. Patterson, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No, I say firmly. There's been a deception. A calculated, months-long deception designed to make me question my own sanity so you could take control of my life and my finances. I show them the rest of the documents, the life insurance policy they've been planning to use, the real estate evaluations, the assisted living facility brochures. Each piece of evidence is damning, each document a testament to their betrayal. You've been planning this since before your father died, I continue, my voice steady despite the pain in my chest. While I was holding his hand in the hospital, you were calculating how to manage his inconvenient widow. Claire starts to cry, and part of me aches for the little girl who used to help me polish these spoons. But I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. I'm not moving to assisted living, I tell them. I'm not selling the house. And I'm not giving you power over my life. But Mom, Claire sobs, I was worried about you. I was trying to help, you were trying to help yourself, I correct her. You were trying to solve the problem of having an aging mother who might need actual care instead of management. I explain about the trust, about the legal protections Marcus put in place, about the safeguards that make their plans impossible to execute. I watch their faces as they realize that their carefully constructed scheme has been anticipated and neutralized. The silver spoons, I say quietly, gesturing to the box on the table, the ones you used to polish with me. They're in that box, along with the other family heirlooms you've been counting on. Claire's eyes dart to the box, then back to my face. Mom, please, I was going to give them to you today, I continue. But inheritance isn't just about objects, Claire. It's about trust, about respect, about love freely given and received. The silence stretches between us, heavy with the weight of everything that cannot be unsaid. David looks like he wants to flee, but Claire just stares at me with something that might be recognition, the dawning awareness that she's underestimated her mother. You're punishing me, she whispers. No, I say sadly. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. When they leave, David's arm around Claire's shoulders, I feel empty but not defeated. I've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, but I've also reclaimed something that was being taken from me, my dignity, my autonomy, my right to choose my own life. The box of silver spoons sits on my table, unopened. Maybe someday Claire will earn them back. Maybe someday she'll understand that love isn't about control, that care isn't about possession, that some things are more valuable than money, but not today. Today, I'm learning to choose myself. The phone rings 3 times that evening, and each time I let it go to voicemail. Claire's voice gets progressively more desperate with each message, moving from anger to bargaining to something that sounds almost like genuine remorse. But I'm not ready to talk to her yet. I need time to process what's happened, to understand what our relationship will look like now. Ruth comes over with soup and sits with me while I listen to the messages. Her presence is steady, comforting, a reminder that I'm not alone in this new reality I've created. I think she's starting to understand, Ruth says after Claire's 3rd message plays. The last one sounded different. Different how? Like she's realizing she might have lost you permanently. I consider this while I eat Ruth's homemade chicken soup. The idea that Claire might actually face consequences for her actions, that she might lose something she values, feels foreign after months of feeling powerless. Good, I say finally. She needs to understand that actions have consequences. That love isn't unconditional when it's based on manipulation. The next morning, David calls. His voice is careful, professional, the tone he uses when he's trying to manage a difficult client. Mrs. Patterson, I think we need to have a conversation. Claire she's very upset. She barely slept last night. I'm sorry to hear that, I say, and I am. Despite everything, I don't want my daughter to suffer. But I also won't sacrifice my independence for her comfort. She wants to make this right, David continues. She realizes she may have approached this wrong. Approached this wrong. As if manipulating your grieving mother is a matter of poor strategy rather than fundamental betrayal. David, I say gently, I'm not interested in Claire's guilt or her desire to make this right. I'm interested in protecting myself from further manipulation. But your family doesn't manipulate each other, I interrupt. Family doesn't document each other's grief as evidence of incompetence. Family doesn't lie about financial problems to justify taking control of someone's life. The silence stretches between us, and I can almost hear him recalculating, trying to find a new approach. What do you want from us? He asks finally. I want you to respect my choices. I want you to stop treating me like a problem to be solved. I want you to understand that I'm not moving anywhere, I'm not giving up my independence, and I'm not pretending this didn't happen. And Claire? I think about this carefully. What do I want from Claire? An apology? Recognition of what she's done? A return to the relationship we used to have? I want Claire to understand that earning back my trust will take time. That love isn't about control, and care isn't about possession. And I want her to get help, therapy, counseling, whatever. It takes for her to understand why she thought it was acceptable to manipulate me. She's already made an appointment, David says quietly, with a therapist who specializes in family dynamics. This surprises me. Maybe Claire is taking this more seriously than I thought. Maybe she's beginning to understand the depth of what she's done. That's a good start, I say. But it's just a start. After I hang up, I sit in Marcus's chair and think about forgiveness. Not the immediate, unconditional forgiveness that enables bad behavior, but the kind that comes after acknowledgement. After change, after trust is rebuilt brick by brick. I may forgive Claire someday. But I won't forget what she's capable of, and I won't make myself vulnerable to her manipulation again. The doorbell rings, and I'm surprised to see a young man holding a bouquet of flowers. The card is from Claire. Mom, I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough, but it's where I need to start. I love you. I put the flowers in a vase, but I don't call her. Not yet. She needs to understand that rebuilding trust takes time, that love requires respect, that some boundaries, once established, are permanent. For the first time in months, I feel like I'm in control of my own life. It's a feeling I intend to keep. 3 months later, I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by 40 years of memories that I get to keep. The morning light streams through the windows Marcus always said were too big, and I smile because I love them exactly as they are. The house feels different now, not empty, but peaceful. I've made changes, small ones that reflect my new independence. I've hired a young man from the neighborhood to help with the heavy gardening work. I've arranged for a weekly cleaning service. I've installed a medical alert system, not because anyone forced me to, but because I chose to. Ruth and I have established a routine. She comes for coffee every Tuesday, and we sit in the garden Marcus planted, watching the roses he chose because they matched my favorite teacup. We talk about books, about the news, about the small dramas of neighborhood life. We talk about everything except Claire, unless I bring her up first. She called again yesterday, I tell Ruth over coffee. The 4th time this month. Did you answer? No. But I listened to the message. I pause, considering how much to share. She's still in therapy. She says she's learning about boundary violations, about manipulation, about the difference between helping and controlling. Ruth nods, not pushing for more information. She's learned to let me process this at my own pace. I think I might call her back soon, I say. Not to reconcile, but to see if she's truly changing. What would that look like? Ruth asks. I think about this carefully. It would look like her accepting my choices without trying to change them. It would look like her visiting because she wants to see me, not because she's worried about me. It would look like respect. The garden is beautiful. This time of year, full of the flowers Marcus loved. I've added some new varieties, making small changes that honor his memory while reflecting my own preferences. It's a metaphor for my life now, built on the foundation of our love, but shaped by my own choices. I've started volunteering at the library, reading to children during story time. Their faces light up when I do the voices for different characters, and I remember how much I loved reading to Claire when she was small. Before she became someone who saw me as an obstacle instead of a person, the children remind me that I have things to offer beyond being someone's mother or someone's burden. I have stories to tell, wisdom to share, love to give that isn't conditional on someone's behavior toward me. Mrs. Patterson, one of the children said last week, "You're funny." Funny? When's the last time someone called me funny? When's the last time I felt like I had something to offer beyond being managed and cared for? I'm learning that being alone isn't the same as being lonely, that protecting yourself isn't the same as being selfish, and that love without respect is just another form of control. When the phone rings and Claire's name appears on the caller ID, I consider answering. But I'm not ready yet. I'm still learning to trust myself, still discovering who I am when I'm not defined by other people's needs or expectations. I pour my tea into the china cup with the tiny roses, and I notice that my hands are steady. The silver spoons catch the afternoon light, and I feel proud of myself for keeping them, for choosing to honor my own value instead of buying peace with compliance. Maybe next week I'll call Claire back. Maybe I'll give her the chance to show me who she's becoming, to prove that people can change, that love can be rebuilt on a foundation of respect instead of manipulation. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll continue building this life I've chosen, surrounded by people who value me for who I am rather than what I can provide. For now, I have my tea, my books, my garden, and my hard-won peace. It's enough. It's more than enough. It's everything.